They call gold and silver God's money. So if you're thinking of buying precious metals or switching your 401k to gold without a penalty, head on over to thegoldshow.com now. The link is in the description below.
Hello and welcome. Today we've got Michael Jaco, former CIA and Navy, and we are going to be discussing the Maxwell case today that's starting, the election results that everyone wants to know the truth about, that's starting in the Supreme Court on the 23rd, which is tomorrow. And Kamala Harris talks of her being replaced by Joe Biden, and also the false flags attacks that the deep state are going to be planning. That obviously it's not really good. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Michael Jaco can choose our words wisely to avoid due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Mike, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
Nicholas, thanks for having me on again. Lots of events. I've been traveling, doing lots of events with Scott McKay, Patriot Street Fighter. We did 3 events together in South Carolina, and a couple in Florida. I've also done a couple of my own events, have more scheduled. So it's been good, been able to meet people that are very motivated, want the country to go in the right way. And then we're seeing, a lot of stuff happening to try and break that down.
Let's talk about that. What happened that you saw that was trying to break that down?
So I remote viewed probably a little over a year ago, that American cities would have massive rioting that would rival the stuff that we saw before with BLM and Antifa. So I think we're starting to see that they're using the latest event that happened in Wisconsin, where Rittenhouse basically defended himself in Wisconsin, and once he was acquitted, they're saying that this is a white supremacist type move. Of course, he shot 3 white men. They were trying to take his weapon. They were trying to attack him. They did attack him. They physically attacked him, and he defended himself. So he was acquitted of all charges. So now they're trying to push that you cannot defend yourself. So if you get attacked by Antifa or BLM, they're saying that you cannot defend yourself. It's illegal for you to do that. So that's the agenda they're trying to push. Of course, there was no racism involved, but they're saying that he shot, and falsely claiming that he shot 3 black men. So these lies, these manipulations are going to continue. So I saw this as a possible, kickoff to what I thought was going to be rioting throughout every major U.S. city. Now, we've already seen just recently where a black man drove his van through a Christmas parade, and looks like at least 5 people were killed, and many others were injured. And who knows, maybe some of those might die later on. But when you see the horrific attack that he did driving his SUV, or his, I think it was an SUV, through a crowd at a high rate of speed and just rolling over people, it's just pretty horrific. He got him from behind, so no one saw it coming. So that's probably, one of these years. So I think that's going to be, the things we're going to start to see. Those types of events, they're going to continue to increase in intensity. In Portland, Oregon, where a lot of this stuff has been going on for a long time, they were chanting. I saw a chant where they were like attacking 200 of them, attacked a police force and drove them into like a building where they had to close a gate so they could, remain and be safe. But these guys were chanting that they were going to burn every U.S. city. So I think this is kind of telegraphing that it's time for all those that have been put in sleeper cell mode to go ahead and step out and start the rioting. And I firmly believe that's going to start to happen, because we're seeing it start to kick up in the press. The Mockingbird mainstream media is basically starting to say that this was justice that was not done correctly, which is absolutely ridiculous. But they're going to use this event and spin it in a way to inflame people or try to inflame people again. Of course, it will inflame, the puppets that they have to create these rioting. I think a lot of these people that are in this riot mode, as we're going to see going forward, are paid actors. A lot of them have been, removed from jails, as we've been seeing. They have, on purpose, they have been emptying the jails. This person, in fact, was a felon that was released from jail that committed the crime of running people over. Pedophile, and even said that he had his own group of people that he, promoted, to do this pedophilia and stuff. So I think that as we move forward, we're going to see a lot of these people that have been released from jails are going to start committing these crimes. Of course, they've also, removed police forces. They've hamstring a lot of the police forces, cutting them back, making it almost impossible for them to do their jobs, as we're seeing in Portland. And that's, as we move forward, that's going to be a very troublesome thing. The only way that we can stop this out is if people basically get involved. And I'm not saying, become vigilantes or anything like that, but just get involved, support your police. When you see, certain events, you need to report them as soon as possible. Maybe there could be some citizen action where you help support the police in some way. The police forces can deputize people and so forth, which are doing down on the border in Texas. They're deputizing people with, sufficient background that can help them out. So that's a possibility, I think, for all of us going forward here in the U.S. And I think in every major city, because we saw demonstrations in every major city, throughout the weekend. People are pushing back on mandates and so forth. So we'll see going forward. This is really going to start to go in a high gear because these guys are really being pushed up against the wall. There's all kinds of legal action that's coming at them from every different direction, and they're losing their power. So I think it's a very important time frame. We need to stay vigilant. We need to support each other and continue to push forward.
Right. Now, before we get deeper into the attacks, Mike, there are people watching for the first time. Could you please explain what exactly happened to Rittenhouse? What exactly happened? How the media twisted it? And then we can go into the Black Lives Matter Antifa, and then we could move over deeper into the attacks that I would like to discuss with you, please.
Excellent. Yes. So the Kyle Rittenhouse case basically was a 17-year-old that was contracted to provide security to a car dealership. So during this time frame, a lot of the car dealerships were being attacked, burned, and cars are being broken into, destroyed. So this one dealership basically, decided to provide, himself or his car dealership security. So he hired this one company. Kyle Rittenhouse happened to be in that company. They hired him, trained him. They all had open carry weapons, which is legal in that state. Came into the state with his weapon, was providing security. He was actually seeing, helping people that were getting injured in some of the rioting that was going on. He had a medical kit. That's been documented that he was seen. And then you can see him coming under attack and then being physically chased, running down the street and then tackled. And then he finally started to defend himself, shooting people that are trying to grab his weapon and pull it away from him. One person even pulled out a handgun, was about to shoot him, and he shot that person. So I did a big show. I pointed out all the different things, being an expert with firearms myself. And when I pointed this stuff out, it was on YouTube. It was retracted. It was pulled away. Now you can't find that now. You can't find that incident and all the evidence that's there. You can't find evidence that every one of the people that were involved in, running him down were all felons, were all criminals, like we're talking about. So there's lots of jails have been emptied out. And I think this is on purpose. They're actually contracting a lot of these criminals to actually get involved in this rioting. And that's been proven. This was proof. So he defended himself. He was acquitted in a court, which was the fact that he even had to go to court was probably unbelievable, unjustified to begin with. And then it was easy for him to be, acquitted because the evidence was overwhelming. I think the prosecution did a horrible job of trying to relay that he was a criminal that had come in with the intention of shooting people. Whereas you can see clearly in the video, he's running, trying to save himself. And at the end, he's protecting his life. Just like every American, every person throughout the world has the right to protect themselves, to protect their life. And that's something I think the whole world is waking up to. They don't want us to know that, and don't want us to believe that we have that power to protect ourselves. So they're trying to really come after that. They want to make people fearful that, no, you can't protect yourself or otherwise you're going to be wrong. So there's other things that are happening. Like, we see the attack on 9/11. We saw for year after year after year, these basically planes are crashed into a building. You don't see those anymore because people are saying now that was basically CGI, computer generated information. So now that we're starting to see this technology and we're starting to see how these people manipulate information and try to manipulate us, I did a big show where I pointed out that within a certain area, you could literally see people were videoing the CGI going into the buildings. But when you were further away, the CGI disappeared and all you saw was explosions. You didn't see planes coming in because there were none. It was all CGI. So from a very great distance, the CGI wasn't showing up. So this is all documented. This is all proof. This is all coming out. People are awaking to this fact, and they don't want us to. So they're in desperate straits right now to create events like this and twist them and make them look like they're something they're completely not, completely 180 from. So they're going to try and draw up, their minions to basically start rioting again, and they're going to do it. It's absolutely going to happen. They're already starting to hit the drumming, like we said, in social media is already hitting it. The mainstream media is already hitting it. Political figures are already hitting it, and it's all unbelievable. It's like, how can these people get away with it? Well, they can't if we don't allow them anymore. But they're going to continue with it until they cannot anymore. So that's what we need to be aware of. We need to awaken to these people manipulating our consciousness and pushing us.
Now, it's expected to see attacks because maybe they're terrified of seeing of the Supreme Court. We've got we have to be very careful with our words with this topic because I want to put this on YouTube. So I want to be quite careful. But sure. With the November the 3rd event that was inconsistent, that's going to the Supreme Court tomorrow on the 23rd. So we might see more of that. What do you think about that? What do you think would happen now? Because we've seen lots of different processes of the November the 3rd event. So what do you think the outcome would be on the 23rd of November? Because Mike Lindell was the one that said that this is going to take place in the Supreme Court. So how do you see this?
It's going to take place. I believe it's going to take place in the Supreme Court, and they're just not going to do anything with it because they didn't do anything with it from the beginning, and they've been given this information all along. This is more corroborating information. It's going to be denied. We've seen this throughout time where they've basically come in and maybe corrupted judicial system somewhere, or they have people that are going to, vote on their side. I don't see this as changing. And that's just more of a wake up call for people to see that this is really something that we as a people have to get involved in. We can't expect a corrupt system, a collapsing system to support us and keep us safe and do the right thing. It's just not happening. It's not going to happen. I think this is one of those last straws that breaks the camel's back to a certain extent, so to speak, because, it's not happened yet. I will be amazingly surprised. I will be like supremely grateful. And, I pray that it would happen, but I really don't feel that it is. When I look at this going forward, I think we're going to go a little bit deeper into some problem areas. So that's really going to waken up more people. I think enough of us are awake now. I don't know how much more, people need to be awakened, but and I don't think that's the cause anymore. It's basically so that we play out all of these corrupt systems so that everyone can see that every single system is corrupt. And then once that's done, once that's completely been played out, then we'll start to see some tides change. So I see people stepping up and talking. I worked with the Australian SAS many years ago when I was in the SEAL teams. And those were great guys. I just saw in Australia, one of those SAS officers speak out saying that basically people have to step up and take charge and push back on the government and pretty much, not let it exist anymore. And I think that that's really what we all have to do. We have to look at, a system that is so corrupt that it doesn't serve us anymore. And in fact, not only does it not serve us, but is actually out for us. It's out to try and control us and make our lives even more difficult than they already are. And that's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as we go forward.
So, the Rittenhouse case, do you know for a fact if that was taken in the Supreme Court?
I don't believe the Rittenhouse case was. I haven't seen that. It could be pushed there. I've heard of some people saying that the Justice Department needs to get involved in that case and needs to go up the chain to the Supreme Court. It's pretty clear, cut and dry. It's not like what we're talking about as far as like what happened that some of the people are pushing that other event to the Supreme Court. That in my opinion is a clear cut case, but they're projecting it as is just done. There's no way that can happen. It didn't happen. We need to accept what the results that have happened and not to push on this and that we're conspiracy theorists. If we continue to push on something that is in the past, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. If someone murders someone in my family, I'm gonna continue to push. I don't care how long it takes to get justice for someone in my family. So that could take years and years and years, and that's the way a lot of this stuff happens. The wheels of justice take time, but once they start to turn in the right direction, which they are, they're going to come for those that have done injustice. And I think that's where we're at right now. They're about ready to start to grind people up, which I think they've already started. One of those gears has already started to come in and catch a few people. So that's what we'll see going forward. We're going to continue to see that system basically not service breakdown, and we'll see a new justice system start to appear.
Absolutely. Now, we know the Maxwell case is happening today. This is what we're hearing. There's no media coverage of this. We know the Rittenhouse case, he won it. He's found not guilty. So there is some evidence here to show that the court system is somewhat, there's some functionality there.
Right.
So why do you think that is if we are constantly battling the November the 3rd event?
So I think that what the good thing that it shows is there's still, good people. And if enough people get involved in something, they can make a difference. That's what it's taken throughout time. It has to be grassroots, because when you have a corrupt system, the only way to overcome that is through a grassroots movement. It's kind of like, we saw the Frankenstein movies where, Dr. Frankenstein was doing these horrific, experiments, kind of like what we see now going on in the world. And then you see the townspeople, basically, they're tired of it and they show up with torches and pitchforks and it's over. They take down Castle Frankenstein. That's where we're just about at that area right now, where you push on people enough and they reach their breaking point and they push back. So we're at that point. People are pushing back. People are stepping up. The justice system has to work when enough people get involved. They can't wiggle out of it. And that's what we're seeing. They have come in and they've said, well, we're not going to pursue this. And it's like, oh, wow. How is it that the elite get away with it? They don't get away with it if we push. If we just accept, these conditions that they dictate to us, then that's the way justice continues to happen. Now, if we go back in time in the UK, we go back, where the kings were all powerful and they said, this is what you're going to do, whether you like it or not. And the people rose up and they're pushed back and they're like, okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to create some, laws for, the citizenry. And the kings had to go with that. So that's how those laws have filtered down to America and really a lot of the world. So as we go forward, it's the people that have to rise up, because there's always these times where these elites, if we want to call them that, will eventually, worm their way in and garner more and more control. They'll pay people off. They'll have people in their pocket through different ways, and that's what we're seeing with the trial that's coming up with Ghislaine
Maxwell, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all part of a bigger scheme to entrap people, to have people get involved with children, and young, very, very young people, and we'll put it that way. And a lot of those people left and got away from that system, and now they're coming back and saying, this is what happened to me, and people were getting behind them. Now you would say, well, if they've been doing that for many, many years, wouldn't there be a lot of people that were involved? Probably were. I've heard that, some of those people are no longer with us, and that's how they basically cover their tracks. So fortunately, some of them escaped and were able to tell the story. So we've seen that over time as well, where these guys cover the tracks. They have a judicial system, which is in their pocket, and they can lie their way, they can manipulate their way into maintaining their power. This time, Jeffrey Epstein, he was basically getting away with it for year after year after year, on and on and on. He was supposed to, be in prison, but then they were like, okay, we're going to let you out, most of the time. Like he would be gone. He'd get out of prison and he'd go travel. He wasn't supposed to travel, and he'd travel around. And then one of those times he came back and they're like, okay, you're going to prison for good now. So they put him in prison, and then supposedly, he committed suicide in that prison. I don't think he did. A lot of people don't think he did. I think that was a cover up, and they pulled him out, and basically they're questioning him. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell basically has, she was working with him for a long time, getting contacts and pulling people in. It was basically a sting operation, so they get people in. This is what they do in every industry, whether it be political, whether it be the movie or the music industry. They bring people in to basically entrap them. So they get involved in some type of situation where they're aware of it, or whether they're drugged or not. However it happens, it's videotaped. From that point on, they have the goods on them. So you're going to do this for us, or we're going to disclose this. We've seen this over time where people have been, caught in these compromising situations. And that's what a lot of these organizations do. They're honey traps, basically, to get people to come in and do illegal activity with minors, and they're videotaped, and they're basically entrapped into basically working for the deep state from that point on. So that's what Ghislaine Maxwell and her group were involved in. And I think Epstein being on one side, giving up information, Ghislaine Maxwell on her side, giving up information, is basically going to expose more and more people.
Right. I've said this before. Lynn Wood has confirmed that Epstein is alive, and he's in prison. And for me, that's most likely the case. He's a defamation's lawyer. Just that they don't just come out and make those types of statements. Mm-hmm. Now we see, Maxwell going in today. Apparently, the media is completely silent about that. So for me, when there's delays of the November the 3rd event in the Supreme Court, and they're showing that they're going through this process, something there doesn't seem right. Because if that was the case, then there would be no power on the good side for that to continue on the Epstein side. So something for me doesn't make sense. And I think that's something for everyone to maybe think about. Okay. What do you think about Kamala Harris? It talks about her replacing Joe Biden because of his health. What do you think about that?
Yeah, she's definitely going to be replaced, and she's going to be the fall guy, if you will, to basically take some heat off him. This has been done in the past during the Nixon administration. Spiro Agnew, which was his vice president, basically was thrown under the bus to take the heat off of Nixon. It didn't last long. Once once they destroyed Spiro Agnew, which is a really good guy, actually, he went away. He just said, okay, although I believe, I know that I didn't commit any of these. I'll admit to this one thing, which eventually he proved was a lie as well. And then he just went away. I mean, he's a good guy. He didn't want to work for a system that was going to control, destroy his character. So he just left. That's what's going to happen with Kamala. So Kamala's already taken a lot of heat. Now, she is an easy person to get rid of because she was not popular to begin with. So I think this was all planned. At some point, they were going to remove her. And who knows, maybe she's even part of that and has agreed to it. So it's an absolute thing that she will be removed. Now, the next person that's in line, we'll see. I think Joe Biden at some point is going to come out. They're going to pull something where, he's not capable of running because he's proven himself to be, pretty much senile. And I think they'll probably focus on that. Once they get Kamala out of the way, who moves in her position is going to be very interesting. It can be a number of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be Nancy Pelosi, which a lot of people have predicted. They can choose really whoever they want to put in there. So a lot of people have thought about, Hillary Clinton going in there. So who knows, if they somehow drum her up and run her in there as vice president. Of course, then we know that Joe goes away. And so she gets in there like, it was planned all along. So this is probably something they have planned. How they maneuver that, they've already planned it out. It's just a matter of time and a matter of opportunity, how they, bring it out. So just, stand by for that. You're going to see some very interesting, very crazy things happening in the near term. And then, of course, we have, the November 6th event, basically, which or third event, basically, which comes in and destroys that at some point and brings that to its knees. Now, they've already started to talk about how somebody might come along and create some kind of coup with the military. So, of course, anytime they say something like that, they're extremely guilty of it. It's a 180 thing. Just look back at them and they're the ones that are guilty of it. Obviously, they did the coup. And at some point, more and more people are going to okay, we can't accept this anymore. Let's let somebody else in there and see how they do. Or let's look at this, anomaly that seemed to have happened. We agree that there was a problem there. It's because I don't think the Supreme Court, like we talked about, is going to make this, happen, make this bad go away. They're just not going to take that responsibility. So it has to come. Yeah.
I was just going to say that about 2 years ago, Trump did say the military is the only way. And, we will not tell our enemies where we will attack, but attack we will. So food for thought. I'm not saying anything else.
Yeah. And that's true. I think that like I said, we kind of got that telegraph. I've seen it from a lot. I've heard it from a lot of people in different countries. Now I can look at my own country and go, yeah, I've known this was coming. I predicted that certain things, continuity of government, were in play and were being exercised already. We've had, Juan Sevan has basically talked about some of this stuff. It's skirted around this stuff because we can't openly, say what's coming because it give up too much information and people would expect too much or push back too hard. Once it really comes up, I think people are going to be ready for it. Most people, there's never going to be some people are never going to agree with something like that. They think that their side completely won and they're very happy with the way the situation is rolling. They're pressing their points that they've wanted for a long time, but communism has never worked anywhere. So we're going to see that was a dissolution of power type event in a continuity of government that was planned for. And I think eventually we'll step in. So the gentleman that I talked about in Australia, SAS officer that came out and said that, hey, we need to push back on this. Now I've seen that same type of comments coming from other high level, because I said it was all going to be special forces guys. Special forces guys are basically doing work already. I think they've taken out a lot of, really bad actors, bad players, people that were in positions of power and, could move people and make decisions. I think a lot of people have already been removed. We haven't heard from James Comey in a long time, James Clapper, on and on and on. We have lots of people that were, very vocal every single day, and we haven't heard from them a very, very long time. So it really stands to reason when you look at that perhaps those people haven't just gone silent, gone into the background, but have actually, been taken and no longer in play. Because I can't imagine how they would let those heavy hitters, not come out and say, how they were manipulating the public before, how that would just completely disappear unless something serious had gone wrong or had happened. So when you look at the preponderance of all that evidence and the people that are stepping up and pointing in certain directions and they're letting things play out like we're seeing with the Supreme Court thing, I think we're going to see that's basically setting the stage for the next level of operation. So we're in an operation, we're in a war, and it's a war like we have never seen before. Information war, basically taking down or taking over positions of power that normally are only for those who have been elected legally. So we're seeing, in our face, people that are coming into power that should not be there. And but we have no way, supposedly, we have no way of correcting that. So that system has got to go. It's got to be removed. Has to be a new one has to come in and take over.
Well, a new one has to come in and take over because there's so many things happening that we've never ever seen before, and there's just all happening in one go. But Michael Jaco, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, just remember that they want us to be in fear. They want us to be confused and angry. The only way that we win in this game, the only way that I've been able to overcome, like you get that, the freeze frame of your mind, you look at something and you freeze. We see a lot of people that kind of are stuck in some areas of consciousness. You want to break free from that and really focus on, bringing about goodness. And the way I've found to do that is to focus on the love. So love is very powerful. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It overcomes all the negativity that's out there. If you can stay in that love vibration, then all the information that you need to overcome and do the best thing for you and your family going forward will be there for you.
Michael Jaco, thank you so much. And we'll speak again very soon. God bless you.
God bless you, Nicholas, and everyone that's watching. Thank you.